Hi, this is Dan Caron with MemberMouse. I'm on the line with Chris Palmer from Angle of Attack, and Chris is one of our successful MemberMouse clients. He's going to share a few insights about growing and building a membership business. Chris, glad to have you on the call.
It's a great honor to be here with you guys. Love your software. I think that'll probably come out in some of my responses. So it's my pleasure to be here. You guys have done so much for me.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Well, let's just dive right in. Tell our listeners a little bit about your site, Angle of Attack, and how you got started.
So I got started about 8 years ago. I have a passion for aviation, and that is what the website is all about. I back in the day, I was using flight simulators to help out with my pilot training at the time. But I also had a knack for video, and so it turned out that after a year of college, when I dropped out, but I had a pilot license to answer for it. I ended up making a video production company in a sense, and put my knowledge of video together with my knowledge of aviation, and I ended up started creating tutorial videos. So that's kind of how the website and the idea started back in the day. It started with hard physical products, all online based. So I was selling online through my own web store from day one, rather than going through a reseller or something like that. So kind of had to grow up learning the e-commerce thing, and then eventually I got to delivering that online, which I think we'll eventually talk about.
So now, what exactly do people purchase when they visit your site? Is it training videos on how to fly different planes? Tell us a little bit about the product.
Yeah, so there are several different things we do. The main one that I kind of started out with was we would train people with videos how to fly very complex airliners in flight simulators. So there's a large hobbyist market that uses a flight simulator to simulate a flight of a 767 or a 747. These are like the ultra gamer nerds that get in there and want to recreate a flight that goes over the Atlantic Ocean, and so they sit their computer for 5 hours. They want to simulate everything exactly as it is in the real world, but there was a big lack of knowledge out there. So what we did is we brought that in kind of an entertaining video form, where people could get all the knowledge they needed without having to go through a ton of manuals. So we do a lot of those type of products for specific simulation aircraft. These days we do them at a level that is on par with airline training. So an airline could essentially take that training and use it themselves, because we don't really differentiate between real and simulation. We will, I guess, not in a derogatory sense, but we will hold the hands of our simulation customers a little bit, in the sense that most of these people aren't really pilots, and so we make sure that the content does build up correctly from that novice stage up to a point where they can handle the aircraft correctly. And then we have some other products that are more about the basics. And so one thing I think is important to talk about at some point today is our free product, which is called Aviator 90, and that is our freemium model. So that is a completely free video course, and this is all about the basics. So this is literally how to take off and how to land and how to do a traffic pattern or a cross country, and some of the other very basic things about flying that we found our customers that were flying these airliners in the simulator weren't using or didn't know how to do. Like, they didn't know how to take off or land, so we ended up doing that. But the free product has been really big for us. And then we had a recurring product that we kind of built on top of that, which takes them into some of the more professional side of flying, but still not the airline side, which is twin engine instrument type of stuff, if your listeners are familiar with that kind of aviation lingo.
Wow, that's a really impressive product suite.
Yeah.
I can't imagine developing all of that content. That sounds quite technical from the outside.
And video takes a long time. I mean, really, people don't realize how much time and effort video takes to produce. So that's hard in and of itself.
I think that's one thing to highlight here, is that the material that you are delivering and that you're selling, that you've built a successful business from, is technical material that is specialized in nature and is probably not readily available elsewhere on the internet. And I think that is a really important point for somebody who's considering a membership business. I think that is definitely something to call out, because starting a membership site and growing it into anything substantial requires something that's unique, something that is different, something that is not readily available, and clearly you have that in your product suite.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with any product, I mean, you've got to do something new or you've got to do something different. And I think we probably have a little bit of both, but I think mostly we are doing something that is the same as other stuff. It's not a novel idea that people are using video to train pilots. I mean, they've been doing it for years. Our caveat and kind of how we differentiate ourselves from the competition is we want it to be entertaining and enjoyable. And to do that with something so technical is pretty difficult to do. But I don't know at what point in education we came to the stage where we're like, okay, this is complicated stuff. People have to stop enjoying it, and we're just going to cram it down their throats. And so that's, we took the approach of we're going to make this enjoyable too and entertaining at the same time it's going to be educational. So I think for anyone in their business, in their niche, they need to look at, it doesn't necessarily have to be new. You don't have to be doing something completely new. You don't have to, again, fill a space that isn't already filled, but you have to differentiate yourself. You can't just do the same thing that someone else is doing and expect to be successful.
Yeah.
You have to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. So what kind of attracted you to the membership style business model? Why membership?
So, I mentioned earlier that we started off doing physical products. So I would ship DVDs all over the world. I mean, some of my first customers, to my very surprise, were overseas. And it turned out that, 50% of my business would be in the US, and then the next 30% would be in Europe, for example, and then the rest of the percentage, the other 20%, were spread all over the world, sort of thing. And one of my first orders came from Greenland, which really blew me away. I mean, who orders something from Greenland? But I kid you not, is like the third order I got when I first started my business. It came from Greenland. So that is a big logistical headache. What it ended up coming down to was, yes, it's very difficult to ship those things, and it's more expensive for the customers to ship things, and they don't get the product right away. But the customer service was actually suffering because they, would get a DVD, and the DVD would have popped out of its case holding, and it would have been rattling around in the case and be all scratched up, and then we'd have to go through the process of getting them a new product. And with the way things were going at the time, I think I switched over probably in 2009 to a digital, I guess, online delivery method. That's the way things were going. People were starting to go toward buying movies on Apple TV rather than buying physical discs. So I looked in the future and said, I don't have to incur this overhead cost myself. My customers are going to be, have a better experience because of it. They'll enjoy the products better. And on top of that, I can actually deliver more content through a membership site than I can just cramming it onto a DVD. And so because of that, our products following that decision ballooned up to where we could fit a lot more content inside, without really having to hold ourselves back. So those are just a few of the reasons. I mean, and those were reasons back in the day. These days, there's no reason why you should be, well, I guess there is. If you have a choice to deliver online rather than physical, you should be delivering online. I mean, if you look at the newspaper business,
right,
there's only a certain demographic these days that are still buying newspaper. The rest of us are consuming our content in a completely different way.
Right.
And so when someone approaches their niche, they need to be looking at that specific thought and idea. How can I make this, another term is infinitely replicable. How can I put my product online so I can sell it as many times as I want without having to put money into the production of it or whatever it is? And as a small growing business, almost like a startup sense, it's super important to be able to do that because you're pinching the pennies and trying to make things happen.
Right, right.
So that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Let's switch gears a little bit
Sure.
before we get into traction. Can you kind of give some color or share some numbers or percentages or give people some idea of kind of the traction or the growth that you've experienced with your membership business on MemberMouse?
Sure. My story with MemberMouse is actually one that was originally born in frustration with another company. So MemberMouse wasn't around in 2009 when I decided to go digital, right? I think you guys were out doing other things, learning your skills that have added to this software
Well,
today.
2009 is actually the day that I sat down with a piece of paper and wrote down on it the first architectural designs for MemberMouse. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the market in that time, there were some already established quote unquote membership websites or membership software pieces. So I ended up getting entrenched with, and you guys can bleep this out if you want, but I don't mind declaring war on this company. I ended up choosing Wishlist Member for my membership platform. And so having gone through the process with them, I had handcuffs on the entire time, and I was getting raked over the coals with monthly fees, and my customers were having a terrible experience where they couldn't control, their own credit card information or their own subscriptions. Anything they needed to do with their account had to go through customer support, and even when they would go to buy something, it would get broken half the time during the checkout process, and they wouldn't actually get the product after checkout and those sort of things. And when you get entrenched quickly with a company like that, you get something like 10,000 users and you can't go back. It's really, really difficult. So I ended up going through a breakup, if you will, with Wishlist Member in 2013 is when I made the switch over to MemberMouse. And I made the decision pretty quickly. I saw the features that were available with MemberMouse. I saw some of the abilities that I could have with it, and I also saw that the team behind it were building a piece of software that would unleash the power that I really needed in a membership business. And so that's really when things started to happen for me. And really what it ended up being is I wanted to automate my sales processes a lot better. I wanted to automate my marketing processes. I wanted to minimize the amount of tickets I was getting each day, because all of the time spent doing those sort of things, it takes away from doing what I really love and what I initially started my business for. And all of the other software I've seen out there hasn't allowed me to do that. So I ended up going through the process of actually, at the time, I figured I'd just do both at once. I built a completely new website at the same time that was mobilely responsive, had some other cool features along with it, but then I built in, a lot of the great features you can build in with MemberMouse with code, where you can, allow people to upsell and get themselves in new bundles and new packages and things like that. And I made the switch, and I never looked back.
It's really great to hear that reflection from you, because one of our prime focuses from day one was about that.
Right.
Automating anything that could be automated. And it's really great to, I kind of feel like one of those old timers saying like kids wear their pants too high nowadays, but like, people who start on MemberMouse now and haven't had the experience that, we've had, where we tried the stuff that came before, we take it for granted that, when a member puts in their card, hits submit, an account's created, content's delivered, their card goes to get billed in 30 days, an automatic overdue payment process kicks in, contacts them, and none of it involves you getting involved. I mean, having gone through a process where all of that stuff had to be manual, really helps to appreciate the value of it.
Yeah, so there's something in aviation that bugs us pilots quite a bit, but unfortunately it's true. And that is that every accident is almost always boiled down to pilot error. And so where Wishlist Member and other membership softwares used to be this area where it was always our fault, it was always Angle of Attack's fault that things were breaking. Now I know that if something breaks on the website, it's user error, which is actually a good thing because it's really easy to fix. You just go in there and give the person instructions on how to actually enter their coupon code or something like that. And oh, by the way, if you do it correctly with MemberMouse, they don't even have to enter the coupon code. They can just put it. You can just put it at the end of the URL on the shopping cart, and it'll automatically apply it. Those are the sort of things you can't do with other software. And so we've kind of taken the responsibility on our shoulders, and spending all this time just doing the dumbest tasks that should be done automatically. And now 99% of them are done, and the couple people that get through, we can take care of them super quickly, and it's so easy. And I don't know, we could run down, and I have my dashboard open here with my MemberMouse tools in it, but we could run down every single feature that you guys have, and I could tell you why it's awesome. I mean, it really, really helps our business every day. And not to sound cheesy, but I can't thank you enough for that. Like, your efforts really do pay off, and we really appreciate it, and it's really helped us because we've been to hell and back, right? Kind of like what you were saying, Eric.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great, Chris. That's really great to hear. So after you switched, it sounds like not only did you increase your revenue and you added new members, but you were able to decrease your support costs. So it sounds like there were a few different dynamics that you benefited from in switching. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that in our limited kind of ability to pinpoint some of the things that happened at the time, those are just a few of them. I mean, there are so many other advantages to what happened, but yeah, I mean, our support completely went out the window. I don't handle support anymore, for example. I have a guy that answers 5 to 10 tickets a day, and that's it. And generally, they have nothing to do with, something breaking in MemberMouse, because stuff doesn't really break in MemberMouse. And I'm not going to say it never does because you guys have software, but at the same time, it's so easy. I mean,
yeah, well, that's actually I'd like to take off of that point.
Yeah, sure, go.
It's true. Like, stuff sometimes doesn't work as expected because the thing is, MemberMouse is a WordPress plugin. There's a lot of moving pieces. WordPress does updates. Other plugins you use on sites do updates. So an essential part of our business is our customer support. And, you reach out to us when you have a problem, and we have methods by which we prioritize that. If it's something that is catastrophic, we get you fixes. If it's something that's feature requests, whatever, we put it into a system, we prioritize it. We do software updates on a regular basis to improve the platform. So and that's the thing, that I think is another thing from the beginning, and part of the reason why MemberMouse became a membership, platform, is because a lot of people were doing the one-time purchase things, and for my position as a software engineer, I'm like, there's no way we can afford to pay high-level technical software engineers on an ongoing basis to maintain a product,
right,
when we don't have customer support behind it,
right.
So that's another huge, I think, advantage of our situation.
And I have to say, Eric, that your customer support has actually been a big inspiration to me. And I've actually modeled our customer support after the MemberMouse customer support. Because basically what happens is if you have a question about how MemberMouse works, it's very, very rare that you ever need to get to a person, because the documentation within MemberMouse is just amazing. So, if you need to know how to add a custom shortcode or something like that for a specific feature, it's there. It spells it out in very great plain language. And I think that's a lesson that all of us can use. There's no reason why we should just be putting up an email for people to write customer support. eventually, if people really want to do that, you don't want to get in their way, because then that starts to have negative effects on customer service. But
Right.
you have a good library of common issues and things that people search out, and so we ended up going the direction of getting user voice, and so we could handle those things better. And guess what? You guys like user voice too, so you tightly integrated it with MemberMouse, and so MemberMouse actually sends its user data to user voice, so people can actually, our support guys can actually see what those people have, that sort of thing. So really impressive. I mean, those are just the sort of things I think kind of outside of this conversation, outside you and I, is people need to be thinking about is how do we take the processes we do every single day as a membership business, and how do we make those automated, and so that we can do the work that we love to do rather than just answering emails all day. Because it's so common for business owners to get in and just answer 3 hours of emails in the morning, and then they're like, well, crap, I have a ton of other stuff to do today. I'm not going to be able to get it done.
Yeah, and I think you would appreciate the sentiment as well. And it's not, business owners, we love to deal with customers. We love to help people be successful with our product. But the thing is, when you constantly are answering the same thing over and over again, it draws on you. But the thing is, like, if you're constantly doing something, there's an opportunity for efficiency and improvement. And that's what we always look at. We always review, okay, what are we doing repetitively? Because those things are always opportunities for automation.
Mm-hmm. And generally the customers, they want to get their problem fixed. If they have a problem, that is their number one issue. They don't care if it's a live person or if it's a document that says this is how to fix it right now for yourself. They don't care. They just want it fixed. And then, the time you do spend with them one-on-one can be meaningful conversations.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Meaningful conversations when you get to a person, so that you can just handle it on a surface level. Be like, okay, yeah, let's help you out. Let's get this done.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
So Chris, let's talk a little bit about how you built up your membership site. How did you get traction? What kind of marketing activities do you do to grow your membership site?
I would say, and I've actually been thinking about this the last several days, but I would say the number one thing that turned my business successful was giving everything away for free. And I know that sounds completely crazy, but I went through a couple DVD products, and I got to the point where my website just wasn't growing anymore. I wasn't getting anywhere, and I decided to go digital, but I also decided to get very serious about content marketing and also building a very serious, very valuable freemium product. And so that goes back to the conversation I alluded to earlier with Aviator 90. This is, or was, it still is, I mean, you can still sign up for it, but at the time I created it, it was 90 days, 45 videos, so I was producing a video every other day, and it was a complete course on how to basically fly. It's like a private pilot course. It's like getting your flying license for the first time, and I gave it away for free. I have to say that one move, although bold, is what actually saved my business. And I released that. I started that in January of 2010. And at the time, I produced the videos myself. Again, every other day. I mean, it was a crazy mess every single day. Delivered it and everything. I did that in January of 2010. And to this day, I kid you not, I'm still getting about 20 signups per day for that Aviator 90 course because it's so popular. I haven't really touched the content again. I haven't really done anything with it, but it's this freemium model where people get into the website and they see the quality of work that we do and they enjoy it, and they may or may not get through the course, but eventually they end up becoming a customer. And so it's very valuable. It's the one thing I point to, even though it's free, that really did give us that traction.
There's another side to that coin, though, right? Because you don't just give stuff away for free. You have a strategy for how you convert those free people into paying customers, right?
Sure.
like when possible. So can you talk a little bit about how you do that and like what specific tools you use?
Sure. So I think on the other side of that, if you are, well, there's a couple stages. Really at the time, I actually started out with no other plan. I mean, to be completely honest, I'm just like, I think this is important. I'm going to do this thing, and we're going to see where it goes. And it started to go from there. If I had to do it over again, I would have already had kind of a paid product ready that people could jump on board and go straight into. Whereas with my situation, it was more, we kind of completed that course and then went into the next paid product, the recurring revenue model product. But I think that still, in all this process, and I think this is very important when it comes to a freemium model, there has to be an exchange here. So when someone signs up for your website, I think that email marketing is still very powerful. Now, I don't think that anyone should be annoying through email, but I think that if there's a sense of reciprocity there where you give someone something really great, and this course is really great and big and important for people, if you give them something that great, then you should also be able to get permission for their email and market to them a little bit. And so I think that's still a great method of marketing, at least it has been for me. And it's an automated way of marketing. I don't send out those emails to people myself. I mean, I created them myself, but they release on a schedule in MailChimp, for example, and I kind of bring them in that way. So yeah, I mean, those are just some of the marketing efforts that start to happen with that. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a lot of people that don't end up becoming customers, but you have to have a way, if you want to make money at it, you have to have another actual product that they can kind of bump up to.
It was kind of a leading question on my part because I remember working with you on this, I don't know, a couple of years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, I was what I was trying to get to.
Sure.
Was that when you have these free customers, you actually utilize what we call smart tags, right? To based on who's looking at a page, you can detect who they are, and therefore you can have targeted advertising within
Absolutely.
the site based on who's there and upgrade them to different products. Even if they're already paid members, you can upgrade them to associated products and stuff like that. So can you share a little bit of those strategies?
Yeah, honestly, our strategy is really simple. We're not, and I think this is a lesson for everybody. We don't want to market in your face all the time. I mean, we don't want to be cramming it down your throat. So some of what we did was actually very subtle, where you would get to our front page, which we call our dashboard. You go to our website, which is powered by MemberMouse. You go to our website. It's secured by login, and you get to our dashboard. And on the dashboard, you have all the icons for the different training packages that you can purchase. If you've just purchased Aviator 90, not purchased it, but if you've just signed up for it, it's really easy to click on it. It's grayed out at first, right? Because that's the way the code is set up. It's grayed out. You click on it, it says enroll, you click on it, and then it turns to green, and then you can actually go inside the course. All of that's done dynamically with code through MemberMouse. So when the user actually clicks enroll on Aviator 90, it automatically enrolls them in that course through the MemberMouse software. It quickly refreshes the page, and now they can access that content. It's literally that easy. And so the same thing is being done with the other courses, which the rest of our courses currently are paid courses. And so if your card is on file through MemberMouse, through the software, you can literally click on one of those grayed out buttons that says enroll. You can click on it and it'll take you, you have a choice at that point. You can have them basically agree to just charge the card on file, or you can take them to the checkout page. Whichever way you choose to do it, it's kind of up to you. You kind of just do that through code. But the point is that they do it in just a couple clicks. They can get into that software and, they're there. It's literally that easy.
Do you have any and this, I don't even know the answer because I haven't asked you this question, but I'm interested. Were you doing anything like that prior to using MemberMouse with the one click? And if so, do you have any concept of any change in conversions that it does when you have the one click versus another process? Or
I couldn't tell you that. What I can tell you is that previously we had none of these options on the table. We were not able to. I mean, it's literally as bad as we were not able to really sign people up for courses dependably. I mean, people would go through our checkout page and they'd fill it out, but whether or not that actually connected to their user information, it usually, was like half and half. Like sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So, I mean, and that's just the basic, let's sign up for a product. That's not saying adding on anything or anything. We didn't have these options before, so I really can't quantify that.
And this didn't really occur to me until now, but this is really one of the beautiful things about MemberMouse, and really getting to this point is one of the driving forces of how the software evolved. And the point is that when we talk about what you want to accomplish in your business, we talk about it at a business level. We talk about what you want to accomplish in straight terms without talking about the technology. We have to actually ask specifically, okay, well, you did all those things, but how did you do it with the technology? As opposed to saying, can we do this? And then the answer being no. Okay, well, let's find another strategy. Oh, you can't do that either. Okay, well, let's try this. Can't do that. Okay, well, I just won't make money then.
Right.
From the beginning, I was lucky enough when starting MemberMouse to work with very established business people. And in order to get to the point where we could have those conversations, I was passionate about making sure the software never got in the way of good business ideas. So I'm really happy to see that's still there.
And I think that's a big point with MemberMouse is you guys, from your expertise, have put in the ability for someone else with the creativity in their specific business to model the website how they need to. So, you have so many different options on these upsells and custom code based on membership level that what you decide to do is basically completely up to you. It's generally possible. And I know you and I, Eric, we had a lot of conversations back and forth on this because I had some pretty interesting ideas, and I'll tell you guys about another upsell thing here in a second that was a little more complicated. But I had these interesting ideas, and it was pretty complex, but I just had to wrap my head around it a little bit, and it was already possible, Right. I just had to get the code right on it, and it's pretty amazing. So kind of going back to the code and being able to upsell is at some point along the line, we figured out that offering free downloads with our videos was basically making us bankrupt because after a year, like people would come back and download the entire 30 hours of HD video again. Right. And that would bill Amazon S3, and it was just insane. And so we had to start charging for those services. And what we did is we put custom code inside every single lesson page that basically, the gateway was everything was grayed out except for the stuff we'd give everybody, like maybe documentation or follow files or something like that. Right. Things that were lightweight, but the actual HD videos were through a gateway, so you can actually unlock the videos straight from the lesson page, and that will add on, that downloadability of a specific product, and then you don't ever see that again in a lesson, basically, as long as that subscription is active. So after you're finished watching that lesson that you just bought the videos, basically, when you go to the next lesson, it's all going to be there. You're not going to have to go through that process again. And it's just so transparent and so easy. Yeah. And it's really, I guess the point here is that you're fighting for the customer and their experience in the process. You want to take out all the barriers. And we're not even talking barriers to them buying something, and so you're making money easier. It's really not about that. I mean, if you offer them an amazing experience, then the money will follow. I mean, that's the point of it. And MemberMouse allows you to do so many of those creative things.
Awesome. And I just want to clarify from, a number of times in your explanation, when you're talking about code, you're not actually talking about, developer-based coding.
Right.
You're talking about our smart tags that you just put into the WordPress editor.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, all of it is explained very well through the support section. So, I mean, really, you don't need to talk to someone directly. You just need to go in there and kind of wrap your head around it. And it's amazing how it works. I mean, we have some very complex algorithms that we have to go through to make sure that those short codes work. And it's amazing what it does, because we have people that start out on trials or start out just buying it at the beginning, and so there's a bunch of different packages we're working with. But these short codes, they detect exactly what the person has and then delivers that content, which it's pretty impressive that it can do that.
So Chris, it sounds like you've had a lot of success with your site. Can you give some color or shape to how this growth has evolved over the last few months or the last few years? Whatever you're comfortable sharing, whether it's number of members or percentage change or revenue jumps, or just give some shape for our listeners.
Sure. So one of the great things is that you guys are evolving the software all the time. So one thing that actually happened that was very advantageous for us was you guys came out with your reporting suite. I'm not sure how long ago that was. I know that Eric was kind of talking about it all along since he and I first, since I was onboarded as a customer, that this was kind of coming. But it's really amazing the insight we can get now. And so I can drill down to a specific product, for example, and I can see how much revenue we're getting from a specific product. I can see, for example, how much that free Aviator 90 course is turning into people that are buying the Aviator 90 downloads, which is kind of an upsell to that. It's like $15 to get all the HD videos that you can download. So I can start to quantify some of those things. Our membership site today, I'm actually looking right here at the reporting suite. We have 11,882 members on the website. I was actually looking at this yesterday, and half of those are Aviator 90 members. So that although that is a significant number, it means that the other half of those that aren't Aviator 90 members are people that have bought just a straight out paid product. So that gives you a bit of an idea on the size of the membership site. And some of the other things that you guys have offered here, truthfully, I haven't taken full advantage of. I haven't really worked too hard to drill down to many of the numbers. But one of my favorite numbers that you guys have is average customer value. So just to give you an average customer value, for those 11,000 members, almost 12,000 actually, our average customer value is $22.60.
Oh, that's great.
So that average customer value number is pretty difficult to come by in anything else you want to do. I mean, generally with a membership software elsewhere, you wouldn't be getting this at all. In fact, I don't know of anyone else that does it. So what you're talking about is spending a lot of money to have finance people come in or analytics people come in and figure those sort of numbers out. So
right. Can you talk about how you use lifetime customer value to run your business?
So, and I haven't, that goes back to the fact that I haven't taken full advantage of that. So one way that a lot of people actually use lifetime customer value, from my understanding, is they see that as kind of their max marketing number for a customer. So for example, if we make $22.60 per person, they would be willing to put in, a certain percentage of that, maybe say 60% of that, they'd be willing to put in to win a customer. So they'd be willing to put in something like $16 in marketing to win that customer. Now, I'm not really in the business of doing that through marketing. I don't like to just throw money on the table, but that is something that if you have a business that has a high plateau and it's a large market, then you can look at that. From what I understand, you can look at that number and you can market the heck out of it. It's just a matter of money at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, am I understanding that right? How are you guys using it?
And there's two ways really that number can be helpful. Is one is, yes, figuring out like the marketing spend, and because obviously if you're making $22 a customer, if you spend 23 to acquire them, then you're not profitable.
Right.
So that's one way. The other way is specifically in regards to really getting customer insights and allowing that to drive your content. If you increase retention, right? If you have on average customers stay with you 3 months, but then you're like, okay, let me do a survey. Let me see why people are dropping off. Let me see what they're looking for. And then you produce some content to fulfill that need. Well, now, a person who's staying with you for 3 months, maybe you on average get people to stay with you 4 months or 5 months. And now your customer value is something different. But the point is like this is why and Dan was a huge driver behind this, because Dan actually started with MemberMouse as a customer 4 years ago, and Dan is an extremely successful marketing guy, and he does most of his stuff based on analytics. So he's very numbers driven. So from the beginning, he was talking to me about, hey, it'd be great if I had lifetime customer value because this is the key to running everything. And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's. That's tough though. We're gonna have to re-architect the entire way we do payments, but we kept talking, and I was like, yeah, this is really valuable. So we invested a lot of time getting it right. And now that we have it, we use it to run MemberMouse. We use it to optimize things.
Right.
And it's just one of those numbers that gives you tons of insights so that you can actually make meaningful decisions about where to take your business, which is what it's all about. Because if you're making this, a lot of times it used to be when you don't have those numbers, you make decisions based on a feeling.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which can be accurate. Some people do a very good job at it. But now you can, if you have feelings, great. If you don't, that's also good because you have the number, you can make decisions, you can execute on them, and you can see what the result is. So it's extremely powerful.
And I think that's where a lot of my thoughts lead with the reporting suite is right now we do use some of the numbers, but one of the points of all of this is that when we really want to dive in, the information is there, whereas in other places we wouldn't have that option. So, as you grow as a business, and this is for the listeners, as you grow as a business, you're going to grow up through different stages of analyzing the business and making decisions based on analytics and gut feeling too. I mean, sometimes you'll look at the analytics and it's better to have the information there and then make your gut feeling decision rather than not having anything there to look at. So the point is that you grow up through this as well, but all the information is still there. And, one aspect of this that I thought was really cool that you guys did was the data was retroactive. So it actually went back from when I first switched over to MemberMouse, and I had all of that data, even though the reporting suite came later. So, it's really helpful on so many levels. I mean, as a management team, we'll have thoughts and ideas, and we'll want to analyze something. We can get in here and we can get the information really quickly and start to make some decisions. So, as people grow up, then they'll be making those decisions too.
Well, listen. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was just going to say, while you're looking at MemberMouse, we're kind of wrapping things up here. Are there any other features in MemberMouse that you use in particular that you feel would be good to share?
I think the thing that we use the most, and this speaks to the quality of software that it is. There are a lot of different things you can do with MemberMouse, obviously, and especially with short codes on the front end, things like that. But the area that we use the most, because we don't need to use any of the other areas, is the manage members area. So, we can go in there, we can look up someone's information, and we can, if there is a problem, if, say they got billed and they forgot that they had this recurring subscription, which happens to people, we can get in there and we can fix it super quick. Not only that, we can issue a refund fund right from MemberMouse. We don't have to go to another shopping cart or do anything like that. It's all just right through MemberMouse. We can manage their packages or their bundles or anything that they have, all right here. So really, I think the manage members area is what we use the most. And then when we're talking specific products, as a marketing team, if we're talking about a specific product, then I think we also use that manage members area to get a specific count on how many members we have in a package, or we can also do that through the reporting suite to kind of see, is this product performing? Should we put more development dollars into it? Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to give us the return? And so we can start to see those sort of things mostly through like the product sales section of the reporting suite. We seem to use that quite a bit, comparing the different levels. So it's pretty amazing to see the graph there and what our highest selling products are.
Do you guys find that you use the activity log at all? That was a later addition to the software, but one that I personally, when dealing with our customers, find very useful because it shows us, if somebody has a discrepancy about when things happen or some question about if somebody got billed or didn't get billed, like you can go to the activity log, you can see exactly everything that happened on the account, what pages they looked at, what billing events happened, what emails were sent out, the contents of those emails, like always.
Yeah, and we'll get that every now and again. We'll get someone that disputes a charge through our credit card processor, and it's no fault of your guys's, but generally we don't get anything back ever. I mean, because from what I've heard, it's the bank that's trying to be good with the customer, and so even if we do produce the data to back up our claims that this person is using our software, then they still end up getting the charge back and all that sort of stuff. But with that said, I've come across those where it's like, okay, I can see that you've been using this product like every single day, and it's coming from your IP address, from your address. Like I can tell it's you, and so there's really no dispute. You get all that data. If they want it, I really like to load it on them, and so I pull up that activity log, right? And I'll make like this super long PDF of 1,200 things that this person has done, and then I'll just like send it to the bank and be like, this person like is using our software. Look, and it never ends up coming in our favor, but I can totally tell that they are. And so really from our perspective, we can be retroactive in those cases where it's like, okay, they've made a dispute. They obviously are being dishonest about this. And so we can cut them off right away. That's usually what we do now. Is it's like, okay, if you've talked to your bank and you're not responding to our email to handle this like in a civil way where we can just refund you if that's what you really want, then I'm just going to cut it off, until we resolve this. But like you said, the activity log is there and it doesn't lie. Like you see everything they've done. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
Well, that's great, Chris. We're really excited for your success, and we really appreciate your time. I just have one last question.
Sure.
You've done a great job building your membership site. If you had to give a few words of wisdom to our listeners on how to build and grow a membership site, what would you say?
Great question, and I think about this actually a whole lot. I think as an economy, a world economy, we've gone through a change. A lot of people have talked about internet business. A lot of people desire to have an internet business. They get that view of 4-hour work week where they're on a beach with a margarita sort of thing, and they want that for themselves. The truth about it is that today's economy is an economy of online businesses. And an online business is just like any other brick and mortar business. It takes a whole lot of hard work and organization and inspiration and you have to go out there at the end of the day and you have to put the work in. So MemberMouse can only get you so far. It's definitely going to allow you to sell online in a recurring way, even in a non-recurring way, because you can do one-time products through it. But you can do so many things through MemberMouse. So MemberMouse isn't going to get in your way, but it just enables you to do things at scale, the things that you need to work hard on. And so really that's kind of my frustration these days, because I see on Facebook, probably because I own an online business, I see all these ads come through for create a free online course or create the best course for your online community, grow your community. And you just see a bunch of these different internet marketing gurus that are saying a bunch of things. And I think that time frame is kind of past. We're in a time now where online, you need to build a very strong business. And you need to go out there and differentiate through design in every aspect of your business. You need to just come on strong. I mean, it's a competitive world now. Online business is the norm, and so those that put in the hard work are those that are going to make it, because that's what's been going on in small businesses forever. I really like the quote from Ben Franklin that said something along the lines of, doing something is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And so really that's what it is with online business. And so for those that are looking into doing a membership site, it does offer a certain amount of freedom. I personally moved to Alaska when I went full-time with my business, because I really enjoy the outdoors, and outside of kind of my hectic online life, I really enjoy disconnecting and having that connection with nature and kind of that wildlife. So an online business does allow you to do certain things, but at the end of the day, I spend a lot of time in front of my computer. I work very hard, and when I'm not working, I have that opportunity to be doing things that I want to do where I want to do them, sort of thing. So I guess those would be kind of my jumbled few parting words, but I hope that's useful for people.
And that really is what's important to me, is that, because you're right, like the 99% perspiration should be about people expressing what their value is, right?
Right.
So the thing that my value is, I have a great team that I work with that's helped to build MemberMouse. Mm-hmm. And the values that come through from all of us is that this is what we're good at. And the reason we build it is so that people like you can take that as a toolbox and have all this stuff that every online business needs taken care of, so that you can focus on that 99% that you're good at, and therefore you enjoy what you're doing.
Yep.
And so it's really great to hear that from you, and that it's serving that purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and before, again, I mentioned it before, I was spending so much time just doing rudimentary tasks that should have been done automatically. And so really, I mean, MemberMouse, the reason I'm in love with it, and why when you guys came to me and you're like, hey, can you spend an hour with us and talk about this? It's like, well, duh, of course I can. Because it's just made my life so much easier and better. I know that sounds cheesy. I kind of sound like Steve Jobs when I say that. But it really has made my life so much easier.
It's not a bad person to sound like.
No, I guess it's not, right?
I sound like, I don't know who a bad person to sound like is, but...
The Cookie Monster, I don't know.
Well, Cookie Monster
grumpy.
Cookie Monster is pretty cool, too. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, Chris, we really do appreciate your time. Thanks for jumping on the call, and thanks for sharing your insights with our listeners. And we'll be in touch soon, so keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, guys. You too. Really love your stuff. And for those of you out there that are on the fence, just give it a try. You're going to be really impressed with MemberMouse.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
See you later, guys.